So why this delay in this transition? 64 years is a long time to be talking about this. You know, all the way through the 80s and 90s we talked about it. Well, it's that whole thing we talked about a little bit earlier. The temporal association does not prove causality. I mean, if two things are happening at the same time, does one actually cause the other? Well, the very first time that I read this, when I started looking at that association, that temporal causality, or temporal association does not prove causality, I thought, you know, doctors have that in their brain. How do we get that in our brains? I mean, I can remember, you know, being in the ER doc, and I would see parents come charging in there after they, you know, maybe 3 or 4 hours before they'd had their baby at the family doctor or the pediatrician's office, and they bring them in and they're actively seizing. And I can remember parents saying things, looking at me and saying, you know, I just at the pediatrician's office and they got vaccines this morning. Do you think the vaccines had anything to do with it? And I would say, well, no, I don't think so. And I distinctly remember walking away and walking back and over to writing on the chart and thinking, gosh, if vaccines caused it, there must have been something wrong with that kid that they couldn't handle having those vaccines. Now, where would I have gotten that thought? Well, the first time I saw that in writing, I cried, because it actually is in writing. It says there's no distinct syndrome from vaccine administration, and therefore many temporally associated adverse events probably represent background illness rather than illness caused by the vaccine. The DTAP may stimulate or precipitate inevitable symptoms of underlying CNS disorders such as seizures, infantile spasms, epilepsy, or SIDS. By chance alone, some of these cases will seem to be temporally related to the DTAP. It's like, so your child was going to die, was going to have SIDS, and it was going to happen anyway, and just because we gave it the DTP that we uncovered that? I remember where I was when I first read this. This came from the CDC book, Epidemiology and Prevention, this pink book. I remember sitting at my computer. In my house, I have a great big table. It's a dining room table that's actually my computer table, and it's the front of my house, and there's a window here. And I remember it was late at night, and I remember just crying. I mean, I just literally just looked out the window and just cried and said, God, they've indoctrinated us to believe that from somewhere, that if something happens because of a vaccine, it's not the vaccine. There is something defective about that child. It still breaks my heart to think about it, because we really did somewhere, even if it was at some subliminal message, we got that as doctors. And when I saw it actually in writing, I just was really amazed. It really kind of broke my heart. Because we need to stop deceiving people that vaccines are the most effective protection and start developing new therapeutic preventive approaches. And this is from a doctor that's from Russia who says it was head of their biological weapons program. And I just think that quote's very true, and it very much applies to all of us.